Well, hello to everybody here at Atlanta Highway, everybody over at Beechwood. We're so glad to see everybody. So good to be with you. This is such an honor for me to get to be here to be a part of the series. My name's Scroggins, and it feels a little hypocritical to use my phone at the very beginning of this message, but I need to because I want to read you a quick little message that we got from a college student here at our church here. She said this. She said, "Placing the Bible app where Instagram used to be is making me build habits back up. And even though I miss Instagram sometimes," I love that she admitted that. She's like, "I do miss Instagram, all right? I'm not gonna lie. Like, there's some joy that comes from Instagram." But she said, "But I make myself read a verse or a Bible plan every time I open the app. I've also turned off my notifications. That's helped me so much." She said, "This digital fast is more than just deleting Instagram. It's more than just turning off my notifications. It's doing something bigger inside of me. Having my distractions silenced has helped me work on being alone, and it's giving me time to really think about the big changes that I want to make in my life so that I can rely on God when I do so. It's also leading me to see things about myself that I haven't been aware of before, and I'm more motivated to make a change in my life. I'm starting to see things more clearly and feel less anxious. And this has set me off on a self-growth journey, a spiritual growth journey as well. I've started to put God first instead of the distractions, and my roommate even told me, this is a miracle, my roommate even told me that she can tell that I'm happier now than I was before. And although at first I felt hesitant to do the digital fast, I'm starting to not want to go back to the way things were before." Can you make some noise for that? How great is that? When we read that message this week, we just thought, that's it. That is it. That is a perfect explanation for what this series is all about. And I know some of you, maybe you've missed the past couple of weeks, and maybe you're just now joining us in the middle of this series. But here's the good news. It's not too late to jump in and be a part of this. You can start today. The buses will wait. Everybody is welcome, and it's never too late to start. It's never too early to jump on board. I'm telling you, even if you feel like, you know what, I was here a couple weeks ago, and I said I was going to, and I moved some of the apps on my phone, and I turned off the notifications, but I've kind of subtly slipped back into some of my old ways. Hey, today's a great day to reset, right? Here's the big question that's kind of been guiding this series is, how can we use technology in a way where technology is not using us? That's why we have chosen as a church to enter into this digital fast, this 28-day challenge to break digital distractions, to refocus on God, and to be more present. I told you a couple of weeks ago that although I was a little offended when Sean texted me and said, "We would love to invite you to personally be a part of this fast and not just preach in the fast," I said, "Of course I will. I'm in on this." And I got to be honest with you, it's been great for me as well. But as we talked about last week, if you missed Sean's message last week on the word discover, I would encourage you to go listen to it. You can find it on Athens Church. You can find it on our YouTube channel. But one of the things I loved about it is he gave so much data that we are grabbing from a guy named Jonathan Haidt, who wrote a book about the anxious generation. That book is available in the Athens I Love You store. Fantastic book. Jonathan Haidt is not a Jesus follower. But as you heard last week, when he started thinking about, well, who has the greatest potential to make an adjustment in our society so that our technology is not using us, so that we are using our technology, he said, the church. How crazy is that? That he's like, when I look around, the church is the group of people. I don't know about you, but if you're trying to make a decision in your life to make a change and no one else is making that decision, it's really hard to do that, right? I found this out on Friday night. Do you all know what happened Friday night in the city of Atlanta? The Atlanta Braves got off of the proverbial schneid. Let's give it up. Let's make some noise for the first win of the season. It happened, unfortunately, 8 games into the season. We don't need to discuss that. But it was pretty fantastic that in the home opener for the Atlanta Braves 2025 World Series season, the Atlanta Braves finally got the dub. I love the Braves. I've loved the Braves ever since I was a little kid. I grew up in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, which you might not realize is Braves country. A lot of places in the Southeast are a part of Braves country, but I grew up a Braves fan. And so on Friday night, I thought, I'm going to take a couple of our kids, and we're going to go watch the home opener. This is a picture of me and that's our 14-year-old son, our 12-year-old daughter, and our 7-year-old son. And we had a wonderful time. But I got to admit to you, I sat there and I thought about it. I was intentional. I was thinking, this is the part about baseball that I love. Baseball's slow. In fact, some of you, it's the reason why you don't like baseball. It's slow. It causes you to you're forced to be present, right? You just kind of have to sit there and take it all in. It's not like basketball that's up and down the court. It's not like football with the rough and tough impact. It's not even quite like soccer that can end in a tie. No, it's different than that, right? You have to really slow down and take it in. But I got to be honest with you all. The Atlanta Braves, as an organization, I don't know a lot of people that work there. I'm sure they're wonderful humans, but they are not participating in the digital fast. Every other inning, there was some, and I hadn't realized it before. I hadn't noticed it before, but every other inning was some new reason for me and our kids to get out a phone and participate. It's like, hey, do you like this Miley Cyrus song or do you like this song by Journey? Get out your phone and vote on it. Hey, do you want to be a part of the fireworks show after it? Download this app and be a part of it. Hey, do you want to continue to gamble on this game? So I handed the phone to our kids and I allowed them to. And they were, no, I'm kidding. They did not. But every single moment was, get out your phone, get on your phone, click this link, hit this QR code, be a part of it. And as you all know what happens, you get it out to do the one thing, and then 3 innings later, and you're 7 clicks deep in an article about why this particular player is named, why he's named, or the controversy of the Atlanta Braves and what we're doing about that, and how do our Native American friends really feel about this. I mean, it was honestly, we were on a couple of real serious rabbit trails. If we don't choose to do this, if we don't choose to be intentional about this, we aren't just going to slip into good habits. We're not just going to slide into good habits. No. This is going to take some real serious intention, which is why I'm glad that we're doing all of this together. Today we're going to talk about this word. It's a word that honestly I've had a little bit of a struggle with. I did not choose this word. This word was assigned to me, okay? So we started off the series and we started with the word detach. I preached that message a couple of weeks ago. I was like, I like the word detach because that's where you got to start. You got to detach from some things around technology before God might want to do something in us. Sean talked about discover. I love the idea of discover. But then this word, the word delight, was assigned to me. When's the last time you used the word delight? It's been a minute, right? It has been a minute. This is not a word that is in our vocabulary very often. But over the last couple of weeks, I've been studying for this message. I've really grown to love the word delight. You delight, you know this. In fact, what you might not even realize, you were made. You were designed. You were created for delight. Some of you can remember the first moment you laid eyes on your shawty, your girl, your boy, your boo thing, right? That person of the other gender that you looked at for the first time. I remember it. I remember the moment. I remember where I was standing. I was on the campus of Dallas Theological Seminary in 2005. I was there to study God, but I saw her and I started studying her. I remember the moment when I first laid eyes on her. You delight in another person. Some of you, I see one of you here, you've got that brand new baby. I know I'm not supposed to talk to the crowd because at Beechwood, this is disconnecting me from you, but how old is that baby? 3, you can't even say it out loud because we don't want to wake him up. 3 weeks old. I mean, I can't even see the face of that baby, but I'm sure you got a cute one. They're not all cute, but I'm sure that's a good one right there. But that is a 3-week, you know that feeling? Some of you remember that feeling. Maybe it was a niece or a nephew or a son or a daughter, or maybe it's a grandchild, and you first laid eyes and you delighted over that child. You just went, you didn't know you could feel the feeling that you were feeling. I remember getting to watch a lot of y'all delight in January of 2002 in Indianapolis at, what's that place called, that stadium there? What is it called? Lucas Oil. Yeah, that's the one, Lucas Oil. I remember watching a bunch of you. I was in that stadium when Bryce Young for the Crimson Tide threw that ball to, what's your guy's name that caught that? Ringo. Yeah, I blocked that man from my memory. But I remember watching you all go you know the feeling? That's why I love live sports. The feeling of delighting over a moment, losing your mind, going crazy, hugging strangers. Some of you hardly even will hug someone you know. You'll hardly hug somebody you love. But in that moment, you were hugging whoever was around you because there was delight, right? You were delighting in something. We delight in moments, we delight in people. But here's the big idea for today is that we've been so sedated by our distraction, I'm afraid as a culture, that we've forgotten how to delight. You were made to delight. You were made to obsess. You were made to find pleasure in. You were made to find satisfaction in. But we forget because we get so distracted by our phone. And so today, here's what I'd love for you to do. Just take a moment in your own heart, in your own soul, and just say, God, we're going to walk through Psalm 37. And I want you to just pray real quickly. You don't have to close your eyes. You don't have to bow your head. Just in the silence and the stillness of your own heart. And say, God, teach me today. Teach me how to delight. Teach me how to delight, not in other things, but teach me how to delight in you. I'm telling you, I have become so convinced over the last couple of weeks that if we can turn down the noise of our distractions and turn up our delight in God, that God's got something he wants to show us, something he wants to give us, and something he wants to do in us. But we got to remember, we got to remind ourselves, we've got to relearn how to delight. If you got a Bible, you're welcome to open Psalms. You pretty much just split it right down the middle, and I bet you'll be pretty close to it as you open it up. But we're going to look at Psalm 37. There's a key verse in Psalm 37. It's Psalm 37, verse 4. And when I first started praying, first started studying, first started thinking about this word delight, it was the first place that I thought of. I thought of Psalm 37, 4. But what I was reminded as I started jumping into the chapter is this chapter is rich. This chapter is filled with some principles, some messages from God about why it's so important to delight. So I pulled out about 10 verses out of Psalm 37. Psalm 37's rather long. It's about 40 verses, and they give me a real particular certain amount of time here for this sermon. And so we're not going to walk through all 40 verses, but we are going to walk through about 10 of them together. Here's the first one. We're going to start right at the top, right at the beginning. Psalm 37, verse 1. Look at what it says. Do not fret because of those who are evil, or be envious of those who do wrong. Do not fret. That word means do not worry. Do not be bothered. Do not get overheated. Do you get overheated about stuff? You know, where you're just running a little hot. You don't even really know why. I started thinking about the power of this simple idea of just what does it look like for us to just pause, stop for a moment and go, do not get overheated about what other people are doing. This is one of the beauties of the digital fast. You remember the day, some of you that are, I'm 44 years old. Those of you that are around, somewhere between 48, 38, you remember life before social media. And you've also lived some life post social media, or at least in the middle of social media. I can remember where there were days where you didn't know what all your friends were doing at every moment of the day. And that's kind of cool in a way, right? I picked our kids up from school on Friday, and it was a big moment because it was the Friday leading into spring break. And they were all pumped. I mean, you could feel the buzz in the air. It might have been the pollen in the lungs, but it felt like a buzz in the air. And they get in the car, and they're all pretty excited. I mean, they're jazzed, they're stoked, they're, just thrilled. It's the Friday. You remember that feeling? Such a great feeling. The only feeling that's better is like in May when we get out of school, right? But picking them up, they were so excited. One of our kids, though, was not quite as excited. And I got to shoot you straight. I'm leaving after I preach here. I'm going to go pick up our family, and then we're driving up to the Smoky Mountains with a couple other families that go to our school. And we're going to, I don't really even like saying Gatlinburg. We are, but we're going to like Sevierville or Pigeon Forge because we are going to the Mecca. We're going to Dollywood. If you ain't been, you're missing out, right? This is one of those like that acronym, if you know, you know. Like this is one of those. Like if you know, you know. Dollywood is straight gas. I mean, it is amazing. It is on fire. I love Dolly, and I love Dollywood. I'm not even like a big amusement park fan. But one of our kids was telling me, she was like, it was kind of a letdown because our teacher said, hey, Friday of spring break, let's go around the room and everybody tell where you're going for spring break. And she was like, I didn't realize that I wasn't as excited about going to Dollywood until I started hearing about where everyone else was going for spring break. Y'all, I don't know where y'all are all getting all this money, but to flex on all these kids in class takes a lot these days. She was like, it was bizarre. She was like, we started off with first kid out the gate. Where are you going spring break? Paris. Who is taking their kids to Paris? Some of y'all are like, we got friends right now that are in Paris for spring break. That's who, right? I mean, that was out the gate. Our daughter was like, it went from Paris to Mexico to Bahamas to Puerto Rico. She said some girl goes, we're going to Morocco. I was like, is that in southern Tennessee? Morocco? Who is doing this? And where do these people get this money? And she was like, when it went from Paris, Mexico, Bahamas, Puerto Rico, Morocco, Dollywood. Shit. I was like, I've never felt so proud. I felt like it was like Lee Greenwood, like was in our car just singing, right? In that moment. And it was honestly hilarious to listen to her talk about it because she was like, I was cool with it until I heard all that. Y'all know what that is? That's what happens with awareness, right? You didn't even know you wanted the thing until you saw the thing. Worse, until you noticed that your friend had the thing. You didn't even want, some of y'all, you don't even want to go to the party. You're at the age now where you're like, as soon as you get to the party, you know what you're going to be wanting to do? Get back home, right? But you see now what everybody else is doing. You have awareness now for what everybody else is up to. And jealousy is a weird thing. Here's what I've noticed. I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. I'm not proud of this, but this is the way sometimes I feel. Sometimes I see other people experiencing good stuff, and I think to myself, well, do I want the good stuff? Do I want the thing? Do I want all the money they're doing? Do I want the trip to Morocco? Do I want the vacation to wherever? And I think about it and I go, not really, but I don't want them to experience it. What is that? Other than brokenness and sin inside of me. But that's how sometimes I feel. I'm like, I don't want all that money. I mean, if it's true that more money equals more problems, that's a lot of problems that they're gonna have. But I'm kind of frustrated that they get to experience all that. See, we start getting overheated. We start fretting over not just evil, because that word is kind of weird. And maybe I'm obsessing too much over this verse, but I did listen to this one sermon this week, y'all. There are pastors out there. I don't know, y'all need to go to some other churches sometime and hear how good you have it here. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about like next week and the week before this. I mean, there's some great preaching that happens at Athens Church. I was listening to this one sermon about this verse, Psalm 37:1, where this pastor goes, be careful about comparing. He said, because you see the picture. And what's the picture of? It's about the person having their perfect meal. It's like the steak and the lobster and the scalloped potatoes or the au gratins or the delicious salad that goes with it. And it's the most amazing looking meal. But he goes, but then you scale out and guess what it is? It's a prison cell. And there's a warden there. And it's the last meal before they get executed. And I was like, what? I was like, that is maybe a little too intense. I'm gonna start thinking that. Y'all should start thinking that. You see that picture on Instagram and you're like, don't fret over those who do evil. Be like, they're probably in a prison cell. It's probably their last meal. They're probably about to be executed. Be careful about comparing. I was like, whoa, that is escalating this to a level that I'm not sure David, the psalmist, meant to escalate that to. But I think it's real though. Do not fret. Do not get overheated over what other people are doing. Look, we should care about life. We should care about politics. We should care about government. We should care about education. We should care about business. We should care about vacation. We should care about life. But if you find yourself getting overheated, David's going, turn it down a bit. Like simmer it down a bit. Don't fret. Don't get overheated. No, vice versa. He says instead of that, skip to verse 3. Look at Psalm 37, verse 3. He says, trust in the Lord and do good. Trust in him. I feel like if somebody were to ask me right now, what is God teaching you right now in this season? What he's teaching me is learning how to trust him. That sounds simple, but anytime something doesn't go the way I want it to go in my life, I am immediately indicting God, going, what is your problem? Do you not know how my life is supposed to go? I know how it's supposed to go, but clearly you don't. And I'd love it if you would get with the program because I know how it's supposed to go and you don't, and it's not aligning. And when I find myself getting frustrated about that, I found a lack of trust. I found it, I don't know what that was. I think it was a sneeze maybe, but it's kind of like a gasp. Like that point was so good that she was like, oh my goodness. So I'm so sorry. It might have been a hiccup. I don't know. Beechwood, y'all are missing out. Or maybe we're missing out. Maybe y'all got some stuff going on in there that would be like, what? I don't know. But when I find myself going, God, what's your problem? Get with my program. I realize I'm missing an opportunity to trust him. Don't you want that rich, real trust in him? Where you go, God, whatever comes my way, whatever comes into my hands has come through your hands. God, whatever happens in my life, it evidently is what's supposed to happen. And I know there are things that are happening in your life. There's me doing the same thing. There are things happening in your life that you go, I don't like that. I don't like what's happening here. And I'm not gonna try to convince you to like the things that you think God is getting wrong in your life. But wouldn't you say that God is getting more right in your life than he's getting wrong? Wouldn't you say that you have more blessings to be grateful for than things to be frustrated about? So trust in the Lord and do good. He says, do some good. And I love that second part. Can you put that verse back up again, verse 3? I love this part again where he says, dwell in the land and enjoy safe pastures. That when we focus on him, when we learn to long for him and be with him, he's trying to bring us into pastures where our heart is safe. When we are comparing ourselves to others, distracted by what other people are doing, it is not safe for us. But the safest place for us to be, the safest place for you to be, is in a relationship of trust. Going, I'm with you, you're with me. Wherever you go, I'm going. And wherever I'm going, I know you're coming with me. I'm trusting in you. And he's leading us into these safe pastures. Verse 4, this is the big anchor verse for this chapter, but it's the big anchor verse for today. He says, take delight in the Lord. Take delight. I love that idea that he wants us to take delight, meaning actively pursue it. Go get it, grab it, put yourself in a position where you can long for him, be satisfied in him, find your pleasure in him. And then there's this second part of this verse that I would imagine some of you potentially have some scars from the second part of this verse. Because there's also some pastors in different places that have preached this in a promise kind of way, in a prescription kind of way, in a if A and B, then therefore you'll get C kind of way. Take delight in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart. Delight yourself also in the Lord, another version says, and he will give you the desires of your heart. And maybe some of you have heard it preached or heard it explained that if you'll delight yourself in him, he'll give you what it is you really want. I don't know that that's not what it means, but I know a lot of us have stories to tell of how that isn't exactly true. You got that person you really wanted, the job you really wanted, the thing you really wanted, the education you really wanted, and you didn't get it. And you thought, well, I've delighted myself in you. Why didn't you give me that thing that I really desire? What do you think that means? What is he trying to teach us? See, I wonder if what it really means is that if as we delight ourselves in him, as we find him to be most fascinating, to be most interesting, to be most compelling, to be most satisfying, he starts to realign our desires toward him. He starts to change our desires toward him. Maybe, to put it another way, he starts to take those desires that we thought we wanted, and sometimes they don't fulfill. Sometimes they don't live up to the expectation that we put on them. Whereas he's saying, hey, if you'll delight yourself in me, I'll help you learn how to take your career and put it in proper perspective. Have you ever made career your main aim in life? My guess is some of you have, and my guess is some of you have a story to tell of how it disappointed you. Have you ever put a person in the prime position of delight, putting all your hopes, all your dreams, all your expectations on that person? How did that turn out? Have you ever put the picture of family or the picture of life or the picture of a preferred future as the thing that you delighted in more than anything else? How did that turn out for you? See, I think that safe pasture that he wants to take us is to a place where he's going, if you will delight in me. I love the version that says, delight yourself also in the Lord. I like that word also, because I think he's aware going, hey, I know there's some good things out there in life. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be married. There's nothing wrong with wanting a child. There's nothing wrong with wanting a good career. There's nothing wrong with playing golf a lot. That's what I try to explain to my wife. There's nothing wrong with all these things, right? But if we try to take them and put them at the center of life, it is not best for us. It is not the way you're designed. It's not the way God made you. No, he says, if you will delight in me, I'll start aligning the desires in the background of your life to actually be put in their proper place. It's what he wants for us, but it starts with us delighting in him. And here's just what I've found with technology. Here's what I've found with the phone or the screen or the show, whatever, that delight doesn't grow in crowded, distracted hearts. Delight doesn't grow in a heart that's crowded, in a heart that's distracted. My delight for God has only grown as I've been able to turn down the distractions in seasons where I've been more disciplined, had a better plan on moving some of the things out of the way so that I can delight in him. Because delighting in God starts to reshape the desires of your heart, but not in a crowded heart, not in a crowded place, not in a distracted heart. No, when we're willing to turn down the noise so that we can turn up the delight in him. Look at verse 5. Verse 5 says, commit your way to the Lord and trust in him, and he will do this. The psalmist puts it real simply. If you will commit your way to the Lord, meaning you've got to be intentional about it. It's going to be hard to back into this. You got to plan for this. But if you'll commit your way to him, trust in him, he will come through. That is what he does. Verse 7, he says, so be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. That is not natural for us. That does not just happen in this life. No, our world is getting busier. The volume of life is getting louder. There are more messages coming at you than ever before. And if we want to fight the distraction, we've got to have some focused time to be still before the Lord and wait patiently for Him. I found that nobody stumbles into delight. You don't fumble your way into delight. You don't slip your way or back yourself up into delight. No, we got to slow down into delight. We got to breathe more easily into delight. Does delight require some disciplines? For sure. But the point of it is not the discipline. The point of it is not the duty. The point of it is slowing down so we can turn up our energy, our focus, and our attention on Him. I'm telling you, all that life requires of you, you cannot do it unless you slow down, spend some dedicated time focusing, delighting in Him. Look at Psalm 37:23. This is getting toward the back of this chapter. I want to give you just a couple of more verses. He says, "The Lord makes firm the steps of the one who delight in Him." The Lord makes firm, or another version says, the Lord orders the steps. He puts the steps in order of those who delight in Him. You got some big steps in front of you. You got some big things coming up. You got some big decisions to make. If you want to make sure that your steps are ordered, He says you have to learn how to delight in Him. Verse 24 says, though he may stumble, he will not fail, for the Lord upholds him with His hand. Yeah, it's not about perfection. It's about presence. It's about being present with Him. Sure, we're going to stumble. Maybe some of you have found yourself slipping back into some of your old routines, some of your old habits. He says, I understand that. But if you will be willing to not fight for perfection, but fight for presence, you'll find Him upholding you with His hand. Last verse 39. I love this, that the salvation of the righteous comes from the Lord. He is their stronghold in a time of trouble. That the salvation that we're looking for, the salvation that we want, being safe, the salvation of the righteous, it comes from Him. He's our stronghold in the middle of trouble. So let me give you the big summary. The big summary that David gives us, he says, verse 1, stop comparing. Verse 3, stay faithful. Verse 4, delight deeply. Verse 5, he says, commit fully. Verse 7, he says, hey, come on, be still. So that, verse 23, verse 24, we can walk confidently and rest securely. Let me ask you this question. What would it look like for you to design a life of delight? This might be a little counterintuitive. Delight's about the soul, right? It's about what is satisfying you. Where are you giving your attention? What are you focusing on? What would it look like for you to design a life around that? I want to give you 3 things real quick. Number 1, pay attention to what awakens joy in your life. What awakens joy? Pay attention to it. As you start delighting in Him, pay attention to, maybe there's a verse that you find. Maybe there's an attribute of God. In just a couple of weeks, as Sean mentioned after Easter, he said this last week, we're going to jump into this new series where we're discovering Jesus. Are there aspects of Jesus? Are there moments with Him that awaken your joy? Start paying attention to those. As you do, you'll start seeing Him in different places. I love the devotional that we're reading through in the workbook. If you haven't been tracking along, jump in this week. But I love this quote, that when we're no longer sedated, things take on more color and vibrance, right? That as we turn down the distractions, we start waking up to the things that are vibrant, the things that have color, the things that are giving us life. Would you be willing to pay attention to what brings you joy, what awakens your joy? Number two, take inventory of your old delights. Spend some time thinking. Some of you you've been a Christian for a long time. Some of you can remember the moment that you put your faith in Jesus. I know for me, as I started thinking about this, I started thinking about how much I used to journal. I don't journal as much anymore. I think having children is what really slowed the journals down, particularly when they learn how to read, because they started reading my journals, and I'm like, that's weird. Got to lock these up, keep these in a safe place, because a lot of the journals are about them. Not like in a, well, sometimes positive, but sometimes like, yeah, smite them if you will, God, right? Like whatever, I don't know, maybe not smite, that's not the right word. You have like writing, like, okay, well, like maybe just straighten them out, you know? Well, I mean, straighten me out too, but like also them. But I started reminding myself how much journaling is a powerful habit that I have lost. And it's really given me some energy to pick it back up again, to delight in Him. I used to, this might sound silly, but when I was really learning to love Jesus, particularly around as a teenager, as a college student, I would just write I was just writing all the time to God about how much He meant to me. And taking inventory of that old delight has reminded me, man, that's something I want to bring back into my life, to delight in Him more. Would you be willing to pay attention to what awakens joy? Would you be willing to take inventory of your old delights? And then last one, would you design some rhythms that guard delight? Design some rhythms. Maybe it's learning how to take a walk in between your meetings. Take just a walk around the block and make it your prayer walk. Maybe it's, hey, we've got a little decision that we've made at dinner where we're going to put our phones away and we're going to guard this moment to delight in each other and to delight in God. Maybe it's turning your notifications off, and maybe as the email that I read earlier reminded us, maybe we need to just keep them off, right? Because these rhythms they help us design a life of delight. We've said this throughout this whole series, but this fast that we're in the middle of, we're not just fasting from something, but we're fasting for something. God has something for us. He has something for you. And today what I wanted to end with is this simple idea that some of you, if there's anything you've heard today that's made you feel like, I kind of feel guilty that I'm not delighting more in God, you don't need to feel guilt. In fact, whether we delight in God or not, here's the big idea for the day, is that God delights in you. Jesus is the ultimate picture of this. He delights in you. This is this random verse out of Zephaniah that I found this week, but Zephaniah 3:17 says this, that He will take great delight in you, and He will rejoice over you with singing. The message of the gospel is not delight in God so you can be kept safe. No, the message is God has delighted in you, and He's called you His own. He said, you can call me Father. You can hide yourself in me. You can long for me, and you can want me, but you will find me. And I will always fulfill, I will always satisfy, and there's always more to me that you can find, because He's never ending. And Jesus' message on the cross was, I am sacrificing to let you know that there is a God who delights for you. Yes, it's your sin that caused this, but it's His love, it's His delight for you that is compelling this moment. God isn't honored by duty alone. God isn't honored by just grit and go get it. No, God's honored when your duty becomes delight. Discipline is hard. Discipline's not easy. But let's remember that it's for delight. It's for our ability to love Him and long for Him and be satisfied in Him and find Him the most fulfilling. That's my hope for me. That's my hope for you. So Heavenly Father, I pray right now that you would give us the will to want that. God, maybe for the person today that's going, I just don't right now. I don't know that that's what I want. I pray that you would ignite something in her, ignite something in him. Remind us that we cannot do this on our own, that it is only through your power, it's only through your strength. And Father, I pray that this would move us to find you in a new way. Move us to want you in a new way. God, we delight in you because you're everything. You're certainly all we need, and you're more than we could ever imagine. And I pray that we would taste and see that you are as good as you really are. We love you. We pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.